Hickle, let's go to the hotline, and let's bring in the head coach of, I've got the 2020 summer edition of Dave Campbell's Texas Football right here. I'm going to break this bad boy open. I'm going to go to 1A, and I'm going to talk about the number 2 ranked team in 1A Division II. We go to Motley County to talk to the head Matador. We're joined by Coach Mike Bigham. Coach, how are you?
Doing real well. Thanks for having us today.
Absolutely. Appreciate you taking a little bit of time. I want to start with last year. Obviously, your run to the state championship game was a remarkable season. You guys were able to put it together and do some big things there in Matador country. My question for you is, how does that fuel you guys going forward? The fact that you were able to get there, came up short in the state championship game against a good Richland Spring squad, how does that fuel you guys going forward?
I think it's beneficial in many ways, for kids. But, one of the main things I think it done for us is we were such a young football team. We were playing lots of sophomores, a couple of juniors, a couple of senior kids. And I just think, when you make deep runs and year after year competing, and deep, it builds a tradition here where the kids are, they're more settled in and ready for that. The best they can be. I mean, you play your semifinal game here this year and in a stadium that may hold 1,000, 1,200, and then you play your state championship game down there in Cowboy Stadium, which is it's remarkable that we get to play there. But that's a big deal, too. So.
You mentioned the big stadium, and I'm always interested, especially at the real small school level. You guys are 1A Division II. I'm always interested in how you prepare for something like that. You mentioned you play your semifinal at a small stadium, and then you go to a spaceship that has landed in Arlington, and it's on national television. How do you prepare for that?
Used to, you could prepare for it because the state championship games were held in Abilene. You could play in our area in West Texas. You get into a Lowry Field or Amarillo Dick Bivens Stadium. You do some comparisons, and that's one thing we talked about this year. With last year being the first time to be down at Cowboy Stadium, there really wasn't a way to play in a stadium that competes with that type of atmosphere, anywhere for any of us. So playing your state championship or your semifinal game or quarterfinal ball game in big stadiums, to get the kids used to it, you just really couldn't do that because there was zero comparison to playing down there in that.
You mentioned how young you guys were last year, and a lot of these guys are coming back. But obviously the offseason has been thrown for a loop. I think it's fair to say. How did you guys adjust? How did you stay connected to your guys? We talked to a lot of coaches at the 6A level and the 5A level who, they're doing all these Zoom meetings and trying to keep their kids together. How do you do that at the small school level? What were you guys doing, while we were unable to get together and practice?
One of the things that we were in pretty heavy here and small school wise, we use our player development, if you call it off season also, but track season is huge for us here at Motley County. And I think for most schools it is, if you're wanting to develop your kids. So player development went from 100% one night to 0% with just a few phone calls. I think it was basically after our second track meet of the year. And everything's rolling right along like it's supposed to. And then we leave for spring break and get the phone call and then all the news and everything blows up. And then from that point on, we were, totally remote, talking to kids and trying to get things out to everybody. But as far as player development went, there just wasn't a whole lot that went on there for a few months.
Yeah, it's difficult to pull together. We're talking with Mike Bigham, the head coach at Motley County here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, hashtag TF Today. Coach, I want to talk a little bit about expectations. We mentioned that you guys are ranked number 2 in some dumb magazine. But you guys, last year you guys we thought you guys were going to be pretty good, but I think that it's fair to say that you exceeded our expectations and exceeded the expectations of many folks around the state. You're not gonna sneak up on anybody this year. Does that change anything about the way you guys approach the season?
One of the main things here is tradition. We've been very successful, been very blessed with a lot of good, families and kids and people that just bought into what we do here. We definitely want to. There's not a lot of change. We want to compete in our preseason, to win those ball games and develop our kids. We play all Division I schools to try to get us better. The Paducahs, Valley, Spur, Crowell, Knox City, those type schools. We want to try to win our district, and then again, we want to try to be competing for a state championship. And that's something that if any coach at any level should probably have. You should probably have those expectations for their kids. Not to cut anybody short, but you're exactly right. We're not going to sneak up on anybody this year. We can't do any of that. Our kids are just so awesome. They fought tooth and nail every ball game for us this year. And, there was a couple of ball games in the playoffs in the quarterfinals and the semifinals. We could have lost those games just as easy as we won them. Those teams were quality, and our kids, they just did a great job executing late in ball games.
So one guy in particular you guys have coming back, it's pretty rare. I would say, I actually don't know if it's ever happened. But you have the single-season all-time rushing leader coming back
Yes.
in Jake Richards, a guy who ran for more than 4,000 yards last year. He ran for more yards than Ken Hall did at the 11-man level. This is a guy who is our 1A cover boy in the magazine. This guy is the numbers speak for themselves, but as the guy who gets to see him every day in practice, what is it about Jake Richards that makes him special?
It's his demeanor, his attitude, his work ethic. If you talk to Jake Richards and brought him in, you're probably not going to get very many words out of him. He's just a doer, and it's not a kid that's going to talk a lot about it. He loves what he does. Jake's work ethic and what he does on the field is it's surpassed a lot of good backs that we've had here. We've had a lot of good backs here. Sometimes I don't give him enough credit, because he just does what he does. And our kids do a good job of blocking for him. And Jake's special. He is special.
Mike Bigham of Motley County joining us. I want to ask you a little bit about realignment, Coach, because you guys got thrown for a loop. You're moving from Region 1 to Region 2, and you're thrust into a very difficult district, most especially at the top, as you guys are getting thrust into a district with Jayton. You've got other programs that have maybe struggled recently, but have had history of success in Southland, Guthrie, and Patton Springs. I'm interested in as realignment comes out, your reaction, how you guys feel like it shook out for you.
I think we looked at it a few years ago. We got thrown off in the East. Mm-hmm. They put Motley County in the East, and so Mr. Cochran and I, our superintendent, we're looking on there. We can't even find us. We thought we weren't even scheduled to play, and had us put in the East bracket. So that threw us for a loop. And of course, this year, putting us over in Region 2. We were looking, couldn't find us again. And hey, we look up, we're in Region 2 and the whole deal. So, we're getting to see some new faces for sure. We're kind of on the bubble, I guess is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. We could either go in the East but we've never been Region 2, always been Region 1. And, it's, if we're fortunate enough and healthy enough and do a good job getting ourselves back to where we need to be, I think we're going to play pretty stinking tough right off the bat, in that region. So, I think they dropped down. One of the better teams in Division I last year was Balma Ray, and that's in that region. So things could be very interesting really early.
And to really put a fine point on people, for those who don't know what we're talking about, Matador is basically just outside of Lubbock. It is technically east of Lubbock, I guess, but if that's the dividing line for being in the East bracket, that's then. Goodness, you talk about a big state and a varied state. One last question for Mike Bigham, the head coach at Motley County. Coach, I texted you yesterday to book you for this interview, and you texted back and were very gracious. Said yes, absolutely, I'd love to do this. And then you called me because, and this is the first time this has ever happened. you thought you were getting pranked.
I think a lot like Jake Richards, put him on the spot a little bit. We're humble, man. We just want to work hard and do good things and help do good things with kids and just reach goals, and sometimes in our level, we've got some pretty much characters out there, coaching wise, and they call and they do a lot of pranking. So we're all subject to making that phone call every once in a while.
All right, so I'm gonna make you.
so
I'm
great.
gonna make you call somebody out. Who did you think? Who would be the biggest suspect if this were a prank? Who would have been the biggest? Your number one suspect?
You wake up knowing if you get a phone call, this kind of thing, and I've known the guy for nearly 20 years now, and Dwayne Lee just does an amazing job, I guess you would say, of making you believe it's real. And then after so many pranks, you sit here and go, okay, I really have to call and find out if this is the real deal or am I being pranked? So he's a good buddy, but there are times where it sure makes you wonder, what's going on.
He's Mike Bigham. He's completing what is a very real interview from Dave Campbell's Texas Football. It's with Motley County Matadors. Coach, really appreciate your time. Congratulations again on a fantastic 2019, and best of luck down the road.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all having us.
There he goes, Mike Bigham.